in the Warcraft 3 editor, Dota came out of that. There were plenty of constraints, and now they're kind of accepted as just design philosophy, which wasn't actually initially true, right? So how do you think those constraints going forward, like lifting those constraints, does it change the approach to design? What's the acceptability from the player? How does that design get integrated based on a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the challenge anytime that you're trying to create a new genre is that you have to make it familiar enough to what players are used to that they feel comfortable joining that experience while still offering them something new. And I think the challenge for any UGC platform is, your creators are, by definition, amateurs. They're not necessarily going to bring the same skill set that a AAA shooter developer would bring, for example. So what is it about the UGC experience that makes that compelling for the downstream player? And it's, Roblox, in many cases, it's novelty. Or it's a certain type of social presence with your friends and things like that. If you're trying to make a UGC shooter that's going to compete head-to-head with Valorant, I think you're going to have a very hard time of it. And so it's like, what is unique about UGC and what it's bringing? Now, the RPG genre is heavily constrained by the content treadmill, and we end up with 4 or 5 franchises that we get replayed every 10 years, and people, I think, want new stories. And so for us, that's our entry point. It's like, that's the new thing that we can provide, is an infinite number of stories to bring. But I think you're right in that, like, you bring with you the conventions of the past, and you have to be really thoughtful about which ones you get rid of, because people do know that, the square button is supposed to do a medium attack and the trial button is supposed to do a heavy attack. And if you violate that on day one, I think you're gonna risk losing players, even if you have some design belief about why that's been wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
I was just going to jump in on that a little bit too. That you referenced Warcraft 3 editor, which was a very popular platform for creating UGC, and kind of the beauty that came out of those constraints was that the constraints simplified the task. As soon as you've got a blank canvas like Unity, like Unreal Engine, it requires a lot more skill just to get basic functionality. So yeah, I think it's a smart approach that Brendan's taking in terms of trying to create tools for a specific genre. And cool new things come out of that. Like, Warcraft 3 was a very traditional real-time strategy game, but many tower defense games, auto battlers, the whole MOBA genre sprung out of that, again, in part due to those constraints. So it's interesting.